You're in big business now. What was the transition like for you?
The thing about football is you got to listen to it when it's, it tells you like, your time's about to be up, right?
I talk to former players all the time, and it is scary to understand that sports will run out one day and that you will have to rely on your education.
Dude, if you can have success in the NFL where it's a dog-eat-dog world, like you have the building blocks and fundamentals to like know what that path of success looks like. Getting into the business arena, going to Wharton, you have to give yourself grace, understanding that you're completely new at this. And I think one of the greatest gifts we've learned or been taught as athletes is our
Ladies and gentlemen, I am so honored for our next guest, a Super Bowl champion with the Philadelphia Eagles, Miami of Ohio's greatest football player ever, and after his career went and got his MBA from the Wharton School of Business. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Goldman Sachs' new employee, Brandon Brooks. What's up, Brandon?
Ryan, thanks for the hell of an intro, man. Appreciate you, dude.
Man, I appreciate you. It is so great to have you on this podcast. There's so many places we can go. One of the most intelligent players I ever played with. But let's start with business. You're in big business now. What was the transition like for you? When did you say, okay, I had an excellent career, but I want more. I'm going to go to the Wharton School of Business. Walk us through what that transition was like.
Well, back in the day, we used to have conversations about, life after football and, kind of the options that are out there, right? So honestly, man, like after my first year, I started looking at, different, avenues I can go down, right? So, when I was down in Houston, right, I started interning at Amegy Bank in the off season, and then I did private wealth at Morgan Stanley. I did Kane Anderson, which is private equity, like midstream, downstream. And then even when I came to Philly, right, got the second contract. I interned at Susquehanna International Group, and then I interned at the tax revenue department as well. And so it's really always been on my mind. But the thing about football is you got to listen to it when it's it tells you like your time's about to be up, right? So towards the end of my career, like I started having injuries, and I was thinking about retirement on a couple different occasions, and just made that leap, right? Like okay, I've had a great career, like you said, right? Won a Super Bowl, was an All-Star. So for my 10th year, I tore my pec, and in that off season, I just studied for the GMAT, knowing that I was going to retire after the season, and applied in round 3 and was accepted, and went to Wharton, double majored in accounting and business analytics, and here I am.
Wow. I mean, come on. These are the stories that need to be told right here, because I think we do get a lot of stories about players struggling, and we need to continue to help our brothers who are struggling in terms of their transition. But Brandon, man, just in the short 5 minutes I've known you, and what you just said and what you just presented is incredible in terms of what you are doing. I think this story needs to be told, and you are setting an example of people that put on that helmet for multiple years and create an incredible path for themselves in terms of what they do in the NFL, but then transition. All these things, accounting and business analytics, what interested you there?
Over the summer, I was looking at like all like 10Ks, right? Like basically to see if businesses, were what they say they were. And so being able to, whether it's, a balance sheet or, income statement or cash flow statement, understanding how those are intertwined, understanding, where to look, where you can hide different things on those statements, worked wonders for me. So that's where accounting came in. But then business analytics, how to maximize efficiency on a business from an operator's role. So I figured combining those two would suit me best.
Clearly, it will be best for you. I want to go back. What was the reaction of people when you were still in the NFL, but like there for an internship? What was some of those interactions like?
Yeah, from the player perspective, man, you had guys. It's because I was young too, right? So guys were like, "Dude, like, the fuck are you doing, man?" And then like there was, you know, different coaches who had similar opinions too. Like, "Oh, like I heard you're interning," but not like, "Oh, I heard you're interning because like it's good for you." But like, "Oh, you're interning, like what are you doing?" So it was just something that like I knew I wanted to do. I had a passion for, and I always felt like experience is the best teacher. So let me get out here and actually, do it right.
Brandon, I'd love to ask you, going to college and becoming a man and then going to the pros, who helped you understand this path? Where did you get that education and that knowledge from as you were growing up?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, really, my mother, man. She double majored in business and chemistry when she went to college, and got to give her, a lot of credit. But then, like, the NFL always says what you choose to see it as, right? So I think initially when we come in, it's like, oh, bright lights, a lot of access to this, and it's just a much different world. But at the same time, just as there are pros, there are cons, but you have to choose to see it. And so I saw the entire picture. So just as guys are, getting big contracts and having a lot of success, there's many more guys who never reach that. And there are many more guys as well who blow their money or do stupid. And so you see them struggle, and it's like, man, hey, I got to do what I got to do to make sure I'm not one of those, even though I'm not playing football. And
Mhm.
so, I did the big three, right? Like law, medicine, and business. Kind of just did my research on each one, how long of a timetable it would be for me to basically be able to practice the profession. And just realized like I had a passion for business, understood the timetable, understand what I was good at, and make it happen.
Well, one of the things I want to credit you for and give you a lot of credit for, and we can give it to moms too, man. I'm a big fan of your mother's son. All right. I'm just a big fan of her son, you. And I don't think I've ever told you this. I really believe you changed our game for the best when you were a player because with that big picture, you came out at 320 pounds who would kick anybody's ass who has something to say. And you said, hey, I have bouts with anxiety.
Yeah, man. You're impacted by mental health in different ways, right? We want to do our best and be as perfect as possible consistently. And naturally, you're going to put that pressure on yourself. And it's just like, I don't know, man. Like, that's just how like my body handled it. And for
Mm.
me, when it happened, basically what happened was I was in Philly in 2016 and I missed the game, ended up in the hospital, played a game, and then missed another game. And it got to the point where, the media's going to ask, like, what's going on? Like, what's wrong? And I had the opportunity to either be like, this is what's really going on, or, make up some excuse. And for me, it was just like, it's not in my character to sit here and lie to you about something that actually really matters. And so, like, no matter what the outcome was or how I was viewed, yeah, it was important to me to just be real. And I don't even think I was thinking about like, you know, the impact this would make. I was just thinking like, I'm not a liar. So like, hey, you either love me or you hate me. You're gonna break me over the coals over this, so be it. But like, this is what I got going on.
How did you make sure that you were on top of your mental health as you were transitioning? Because I also think that's super important.
For me, it was just like, okay, I understand what's going on. I know what it looks like. I understand, the different safeguards I need to do in order to take care of my mental health. But how do I push the envelope where it's just like I'm more comfortable whenever it does happen? I'm more, I can recognize it faster when it does happen. And so as I transitioned, it was something completely new, man. Like, getting into the business arena, going to Wharton, you're around much different peers. You're constantly trying to prove yourself again, what that looks like.
Can we double click on that right there? I'd love to know, just because I feel this sometimes too, in the arena that you're now in, have you had imposter syndrome? And how do you think about that? And how do you think about proving yourself all over again without like trying super hard where you're like, you look desperate in a way?
One, you have to give yourself grace, understanding that you're completely new at this. And I think through sports, we're conditioned to think like the first time we do something, it better be perfect. Otherwise, like, we're getting fired. But like, dude, like, you can't, day one come out here and, build a free cash flow model. Like, you don't even know what the you're doing. And so, you know what I mean? So it's just like, oh, like, yeah, you're going to make stupid mistakes. Yeah, like, you probably won't know what half the shit is, but like one of the greatest gifts we've learned or been taught as athletes is our makeup speed. And so over time, we will figure it out and we will maximize efficiency. And so I think, as with most things in life, it's just reps. You put the time in, it's not an instant gratification game. Like, it will take time, it will be hard, but like That's exactly what football is, right?
But I love what you talked about too with makeup speed. I mean, that's something that I think athletes can really rely on, and really people, right? No matter who you are, where you're at, you have that makeup speed. But I want to go back to your playing career for a minute. You got to win a Super Bowl for the Philadelphia Eagles. When did you know in that season you had a chance, and what did it feel like when you got to put your hands on that trophy?
When they beat our ass at Philly, when the Broncos came to Philly and they dogged us.
For me personally, it was when we played the Vikings in the NFC Championship. And that sounds late, but here's why. Coming into that week, the Vikings had like the number one defense, and they were like shutting the down, right? Like, it wasn't sweet out there. So I'm like, oh, it's gonna get tough. And then we go out there and win like 38-7. I'm like, God damn, like we might be pretty good. Like, okay, like we might be able to make some noise. I think had Carson not gotten hurt, he probably would have won MVP that season too. I don't think he gets enough credit for that. But when they made the transition, we continued to win. It may not have been as sexy initially, but then like, hey, Foles started rolling, man. And then before you know it, hey, he was on the slinging the pill out there, man. Hey, Foles got on his roll, man, and yeah, I think it was NFC Championship, right? Like I'll never forget a play. It was like a play action or something, man. Like they came in the huddle, man. Open the wrist, man. It was like, yo, like, hey, give me time. It's just a touchdown. And sure enough, that's where he threw that touchdown to Torrey Smith, and like in the back of the end zone. I'm like, God damn, like when you can call a number like that, like, hey, why you go out here and make some noise, and then get into the Super Bowl, man. Like playing against Tom and Bill, together. Obviously Tom being the GOAT, Tom being the GOAT, man. It was just like, we're gonna see what we're really made of, and to be honest, I wouldn't, have wanted to win a Super Bowl, any other way.
I do want to go back, and when we played y'all that year, it was 2017, correct? I believe the year y'all won 2018 Super Bowl. I felt like you guys, and we talked about it after you guys beat us, because we came to Philly, and you guys handled us, and the camaraderie that you guys had, the celebrations.
Yeah, no, the team was incredibly close, and I think, I guess another layer that doesn't get enough credit is, the guys that are starting and, big name guys, like, doing what they're supposed to do, of course, like, it makes sense. But it was the guys like, Bo Allen, Brent Selleck, Big V, kind of the guys who maybe weren't starters, but became starters when guys got hurt. And like, the play didn't drop off, Nick Foles, right? Like those guys, kind of unsung heroes where like they came in and, played up to par with the guys who, were in front of them, man. Like, we were just like close all the time. Everything was fun, man. Like, yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying. That was a very, very close team.
Last question for you, Brandon Brooks, Super Bowl champion. What's your advice to people around failure or fear of failure so that they can achieve their greatness as you have?
I don't think you have great success without failing. You could look throughout history of anyone who's been great, and you will see basically a long line of failures. The thing people don't realize is like, you only need to get it right once. Don't be afraid to fail. Like, just keep trying. Like, you'll figure it out.
He is Brandon Brooks, and we are confident you loved this interview with the Super Bowl champion, Wharton School of Business graduate, and Goldman Sachs executive. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you so much. Love you, brother, and honor to have you, man.
Brandon, appreciate you coming on, man.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Gridiron and Growth with your co-host, Ryan Harris, and myself. Big shout out to Big Up Studios and Streamline Media for all their help with everything that we do. Please like and subscribe to this podcast. Please leave a review, and please send us any questions at the Gridiron and Growth Pod at gmail.com.